80s. Keep it here on Oak 93.5. I'm nowcast meteorologist Christopher Cawley.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're now tuned into Chat City with P. Ross. Conversations and interviews are in the queue. Listen or join in. Here she is, P. Ross.
Greetings, 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 everyone. Thank you for tuning back in to Chat City with P. Ross. I am your host, P. Ross, and I am delighted to have again with me here today Miss Tameka Douglas, who is an evangelist, and she's also a social worker. She's our co-host for today. If you've looked at our posters on who we're going to have today, we also mentioned Navy Black that was supposed to be here with us today. Unfortunately, she could not be here with us, but shout out to you, Miss Navy Black. We hope you're doing well where you are. We'll see you, and we'll catch you next time. So, Mr. Tameka, tell us how you've been during this past week.
Oh, busy. I feel like it should be Friday already. Literally, that's the kind of day I had. So it feels good to take a late lunch and to kind of just ease my mind.
Yes, ma'am. I have been busy as well. Just busy, busy, busy. And I tell you what, we've got some interesting subjects today. Customer service is our main topic or our main focus for today. We also are going to talk about pets in public, advice on turning 40, and pastors' wives. Now, don't get scared about that pastor's wives piece there, okay? We're not meaning a pastor with more than one wife. That's not what we're saying. And forgive the grammatical error on our poster if you saw that earlier today. But no, we're not going to do that. And we're not here to shun anybody. But it's just some questions I have and would like to pose to our audience and get some thoughts on that matter and that subject. But as I said, we're going to be talking about customer service. Why customer service today? Last week, I ran into a big problem at a place where I do business. And I have been in that place of business more than once, but it's not a place where I have to visit on a regular basis. Thank God. I'm not going to call that business name out, but I want to take a closer look at what happened and my observations on customer service, what it has been for the last few months, weeks, a couple of years, years, you know. And I'm just going to start by saying customer service to me has not been what it used to be. And then my observation of seeing what do you call those things? When reviews, like Google reviews and stuff like that, you know, just seeing what others have to say about the businesses that they support or they frequent, or a new visit, or their experiences on there. And I tell you what, Evangelist Tameka, you're going to have to pray for me and pray hard because last week I really showed out, and I'm not proud of that. But I tried to go back and look at what I could have done differently and what the person on the opposite side of the counter could have done differently. And like I said, I really am embarrassed about what happened. And again, I want to see what we can do to just make everyone's experience a better experience. And even the person on the other side of the counter, the employee or the owner of the business, what can we do to make things better for them? Do you have any bad customer service stories before I start with mine?
Great question, P. Ross. And the thing is that I was just talking with someone probably an hour ago about customer service and how it has, to me, lacked more so since the pandemic. I don't know if that's your same take on it, but I've seen a decline in just good customer service since the pandemic. I think some of it stemmed from just who's available and who's willing to work, because, of course, we have a problem now where and people are having difficulty with getting good workers in. And so I've certainly seen some changes with customer service since the pandemic has occurred. One of my favorite places to go to that I think has impeccable customer service is Chick-fil-A.
Oh, okay.
I love it. I love whenever you go and you give them their change or they give you yours, and it's my pleasure when you say thank you and all that. But I've seen some of the restaurants, the fast fooderies, kind of adopt that. I've noticed, but just in general across the board, not everywhere, but I have had some experiences where I thought that the customer service could certainly improve.
Yes. Now, as far as the pandemic, I'm going to say I've noticed this poor customer service way prior to the pandemic. And probably the reason why I've noticed it more is because I have been that person that's either worked the public sector to where we receive training, customer service training as a part of what we do. Or what we did, you know, and so it's kind of like embedded in me, even though I don't, others across the counter or across the desk may feel that I'm not giving 100% best customer service. I think for the most part, I do give that because I've been trained so well in it. But yeah, I want to give a shout out to Chick-fil-A. I think they're they you know what they do is just outstanding, and there's some others out there most definitely, but Chick-fil-A is the one I think stands out in everyone's mind, especially when we're looking at fast food.
And it's consistent.
Service. It's consistent.
I mean, they're out there in the cold, the rain, the snow, and it's that same person is so, you know, just that pleasant attitude. And again, as you have mentioned, there are other places that have great customer service, but that's one that I think sticks out in many minds is just that consistency there.
Yes. And so I'm going to say, well, let me talk about last week. You know, I was in a medical place there.
Wow.
Not a medical. I don't even think I should really say exactly where, but anyway, it had to do with it's a facility that works or have to deal with sick people.
Okay.
Was I sick? No. But I was there to try to get something corrected, and it stemmed from somebody, either they dropped the ball or I dropped the ball. And so I felt like they dropped the ball and they felt like I dropped the ball. And so when we look back into the history of everything, the person that was in charge, you know, they somewhat admitted that they dropped the ball. And I'm like, okay, so now I got to repeat this entire process over because somebody in your group gave me wrong information. Now I got to go through my insurance and this and that and the other. And I remember from the class that I had to take that, you know, if this step is left out, then yeah, you may have to take this thing over. So that's why I was careful to call back, get instructions. And the instructions for me was, you do not have to do anything. It's going to take care of itself. And then, you know, then I get a call. Hey, we need to, you haven't been compliant. So this is getting ready to happen and this is getting ready to happen. I'm like, what? You know. So when I called before going to the place, the facility, and explained I'm coming in, who I am. And, you know, everything was nice and calm. The first person I spoke with was wonderful. The second person that decided to get up and get involved, that's where the problem came in. So, you know, I tried to deal with that one person who was like head honcho, we would say, that I learned. That person was head honcho. And it was the facial expression and the tone in which that person was talking to me. They made me feel like I was a child and I was incompetent and everything negative that you shouldn't do to a customer, I guess you could say, or a client. And so that's where my ugly kicked in. And I mean, you have to pray for me because I was very ugly. But I did turn around once I left the place. I turned around and went back in and I apologized to those that were there. I was highly embarrassed, but I was like, what could have happened? What could I have done better? And I would say I would have to work on me. That's one thing I could work on I'm not going to say I have a temper, but, you know, I could work on how to handle myself better in situations like that, you know. So,
And that's an unfortunate experience, and especially in a setting like that. And it's scary because if you had that experience and you weren't going necessarily for a healthcare reason, imagine someone that is vulnerable and that may be having some health issues going on that they're concerned about, and then to have that kind of experience adds stressors to their life, and it's unfortunate. And when you mentioned the expression on their face, one thing that people have to understand is that visage matters. How you look, sometimes just it can make you intimidated. You walking into a place and the person's looking mean and evil, like they don't want you there. That matters. But sometimes just a smiling through the frustrating day that you've perhaps had, or the tiredness that you're going through, just a smile goes such a long way.
Right.
And so it's unfortunate that you had that experience physically with that visage, and then with her attitude, and that's so unfortunate and should not happen.
yeah, and that's one of the things I thought about too. Is she the right person for the job?
Right.
Because, like I said, healthcare. I would hate to see all the people that are sick and that have to come in there and be treated that way from that person.
Absolutely.
Follow up, yes. Call management and owner or whoever, and give them insight on what happened. Hopefully the problem can be corrected.
And it says a lot about you being the bigger person and going back in, so.
Yeah. Well, thank you for making me feel better. But I was like, whoa, but
Yeah.
In doing my research on customer service, it says that 80% of customers quit doing business with a company due to a bad experience. And funny thing, Tameka, what I did ask them in the midst of all of that, because one person, the first person, like I said, they were great. They were trying to help me. The other person, who was familiar with the case, decided to interject and come in. And then by this time, as we were talking, another person stepped in, and they didn't say anything. You had all these people in the midst of this, but that one person, who I believe was in charge of everyone, decides to get ugly with me. And in the midst of that situation, I stopped and I said, is there another company I can do this with here in town? Because I didn't think there was, and I don't even know how I ended up at that particular facility. But that person said, oh yeah, as if they were tired of me too. Like, well, yeah, maybe you should go on over there, but so 86% of customers quit doing business with a company due to a bad experience. It could make or break a business.
Absolutely. I know I certainly will stop doing business if it's a bad experience and I can spend my money elsewhere, then I'm going to patronize who cares about my business and who cares about me. So I could see, I'm not surprised at that statistic.
Yeah. And in my research, I found that 7 out of 10 consumers say they've spent more money with a business or with a company that delivers great customer service. For instance, if Walmart's product is $10 and Family Dollar, maybe that's not a good one. Walmart's product is $10 and Target's product is $12, but Target gives better customer service. The consumer is more apt to go over to Target and spend more money just because Walmart service is poor. And we're not saying that I was just using those two companies as an example. But so it could hurt your business. $62 billion is lost annually due to bad customer service. $62 billion in the U.S. lost annually. That's something.
It is. It's a lot of money lost in something that could perhaps be an easy fix with training and just that oversight, I think, would help with that.
When I think of training, one of the places or several places I've worked in my lifetime are fast food restaurants. When I was younger, and when I was a little older, but when I was younger. And I remember one particular restaurant that I worked for, they would bring in a secret shopper to see how well you were going to deliver customer service. And this one particular company I worked for, not only did they, through the company, send in secret shoppers, like they hired a secret shopper. The particular district manager I had for that particular business, he would send his friends on top of that to go in to see how well you were performing.
Smart.
As a customer. And I think that's one of the things that, how well you were performing as an employee towards the customer. And I think that's one of the things that always stuck with me, or helped me provide the best customer service possible, because we were actually tested on it,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's wise to do that, because you don't know who's going to come in, who's the real customer, who's the secret shopper. So everybody's going to be on their P's and Q's. So I think that's a smart move.
Yeah, and this one, and I'm thinking back again to this one district manager that I had. He would even, like if there was a rule, do not open the back door after dark. You know what he would do? He would get an employee from another like restaurant that you were familiar with, and he would send them to the back door or let them go to the back door. He's in his car watching. It's dusk, and he's going to test you with the employee from the other store to see if you're going to open that back door. Wow. That's how serious he was about us delivering like we were supposed to as employees, So, yeah. If you're just tuning in, you're listening to Chat City with P. Ross. I am your host, P. Ross. I have a co-host here with me today, Miss Tameka Douglas, evangelist and social worker. We are discussing customer service. Good customer service, bad customer service. We want to give a great big thank you to all of those that take the time to train employees and delivering good customer service. And why is customer service important? Why is it important? Well, for several reasons. What could you say about that, Tameka? Why is customer service important?
I think it's part of the selling of of whatever it is you're purchasing. Customer service. If you're going in to buy shoes, for instance, if you go in, I want to see somebody that's excited about shoes and excited about people, having shoes on that would suit them. I definitely want to see your feet and make sure that you have on nice shoes. So I think it's part of what sells the product.
Right.
Is having that good customer service, that welcoming attitude, that level of excitement. It's just like even when you go in certain stores, certain environments where they may have the music playing that kind of gets you in the mood of that type thing. Just having customers who are also excited plays just such an important part. I have gone in places and I didn't intend on buying a thing, just kind of passing time or maybe just browsing, and because somebody just extended that hand, hey, let me show you this, or let me tell you about this sale and that type thing. It makes a difference when you have somebody that's excited about where they are, they're excited about the product that they have to offer. That can take a person that has a mindset that they're not going to spend a dime in there that day. They're just looking, and it'll take you to a different mentality where, okay, well, maybe I will buy something today because that person went the extra mile to come and speak, or to show you merchandise that you may not have known was there, or to tell you about a particular item that's on sale or a special that they have going on that week. So I believe that customer service plays a very important part in a business, whether it is you're selling something or whatever the case may be, even be a car lot. Just that good customer service and going the extra mile goes a long way.
All right. So personalization is very important.
Absolutely.
When that customer first approaches you. Just letting them know that you care. Appearance and
even being intentional, being intentional about providing good customer service.
Yeah.
It's so much has changed now. In the mall the other day, and I'm looking, and the kids are on their cell phones and everything. People walking up to the counter, they're still like this, and I'm like, presentation. That's a part of good customer service. As well.
It is. Atmosphere. I think sometimes we have to be careful too about judging a business whenever we walk into their atmosphere, because we may feel like maybe a certain song should be playing when they appreciate their product centered around something else, you know, or whatever. But yeah, that's important too. That smile says a lot. I know I get irritated just going through like a drive-through, and I get something like, "May I take your order?" I don't get a greeting. That burns me up. I'm like, "Hello, can you speak to me first? Yeah, I want to give you my order, but can I get some kind of greeting? I don't see you. You know, you may see me from the other side, but I want, that makes it even harder when I don't see you. You know, I would like to see that smile, or I want to hear your smile.
Yes.
When you're talking to me, I guess, in a sense,
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. You're listening to Chat City with P. Ross. We are talking about customer service, and we're talking about our customer service experiences. I had a bad one on this past week, and I want to see what we could do to make it better on both ends of the counter, So that's what we're chatting about at this particular moment. We talked about how that could hurt your business. Reviews. Google review, that just came into play, the last 10 years or so, maybe?
About 10 years.
About 10 years? Okay. What do you think about leaving Google reviews? Do you think you should approach the business first and tell them something if there's a negative experience or a bad experience you had with their business, or do you just plaster it on Google for the world to see first?
I think it depends. That's become my new friend is Google reviews, believe it or not. And I didn't think about this experience until you mentioned Google reviews. When I was in New York about 2 weeks ago, I had a pretty bad experience in a little eatery I went to. And it was the personality of the person. And I think she was actually the owner. It was like a mom and pop little place, and it was that overall personality, response to questions I had, the time I waited on what I purchased, all of that, and I was just really offended because I wasted a lot of time sitting there, and personally I thought it was too much what I paid for. I thought it was a little pricey, but I got it, so that was my prerogative. But I made it known on Google. I've gotten to the point where I do put that stuff out there and put it on Google, because I'm a Google reader. I look at reviews, so I think it's okay to do that. When I left after I got the stuff I purchased, I didn't bother to say, well, this is my experience. I have done that before, or I've said, let me see a manager. But again, I think she was actually the owner of that particular place. But I put it out there. There's a little shop I went to, not in the Wake County area, a little small store. Business owner is usually in there, and they didn't say a word when I walked in. Nice little shop, and I was really offended by that. So I put that out there. I said, cute new store. I think that maybe the customer service could be a little better. They could be a little more personable with those that come in. So I probably won't go back again, but it is a cute store. So I put that out there. So personally, I think it's okay. I like Google reviews. I like to put them out there.
I like them too. There was a couple of times where, I did put something out there. And now I was in a situation where there was a Google review on me, and it wasn't so nice, but it wasn't honest either.
Okay.
And I appreciate how the owner of the store handled that, because it was really my word against that person.
Okay.
And I felt like I did everything on our end that I was supposed to. The person gave me incorrect information, and I think that person expected me to know it. And that's another thing. Yes, you should be competent in whatever business that you're in. That plays a big part of good customer service as well. But like I said, that person gave me incorrect information. I'm not there as much as the others. Yes, I may have to do better in learning particular customers, all customers really. I mean, that's helpful when you get to know your customers. But I was doing my best, and I was showing them on the screen, well, you're telling me this, and this is what I'm placing into the system, but we're coming up with nothing, and that person decided to blast the business and us, and it came from me and my encounter with that particular customer. But I said, I like how the owner handled that on Google, on the review. He put, hey, we've been doing business here together for some time now. Could you not have just come to me and talk to me about it? Because that's a reflection of me. And that owner is a wonderful person to work for. Great business he has there. Yeah. So, yeah, Google reviews, I like them too. Now, do you go in as Tameka Douglas or are you anonymous? Or should I even ask you that question?
I go in as Tameka Douglas. I do because it's kind of all connected to my Google account, so I go in as myself.
Okay, all right. Yeah, well, I decided to be anonymous,
Okay,
on there, so when I give those reviews, but I make sure sometime, and I don't do it a lot, that, that person, hopefully, they could go back and review that situation and maybe make, some correction to it or address it in a way to where it's a little better. I have not addressed that situation I ran into last week because I'm still dealing with it, really.
Yeah,
and
that's
so,
a lot.
Yeah, yeah, and it's going to cost me money. It's going to cost me money, and I don't think that's fair. And I learned that today on the way up here.
Okay,
it's going to cost me more money to do that. So, but anyway, yeah. Any particular experience you'd like to share with us today, Tameka, on customer service?
No, I think those are the main experiences I've had. Like I said, that one just came to me about 2 weeks ago that I didn't care for. And other than that, I haven't had any really, really major negative, like gut-wrenching experiences. Like I said, but I think those were important to mention because when people are spending their money and they're, spending their time, then I think there's a certain level of customer service they should receive and the experience should be positive. And I too, especially when I was in high school, I worked at, in the public sector, but I learned quickly that I wasn't a public sector type person. So I know that there are days when you're working with the public, it can be extremely difficult because you're dealing with all kinds of personalities, people coming in. So it's tough work. Right. So that's why I believe that people have to know, is this for me? Or perhaps should I look at doing something differently? Because, and I try to keep that in mind as well when I'm going into businesses and establishments. I'm not expecting them to be perfect, but just basic greetings and kindness, I think is certain just base level stuff that should be exhibited when people are going into establishments. So there is a certain level of expectation, but I'm not expecting them by any means to be perfect because I know that they've dealt with a lot of people and some of them just like they're treating people a certain kind of way, people come in with a nasty attitude. I've been places where I've seen customers treat the employee bad, and that offends me greatly as well. If I could do a review on them, I would. That's highly offensive. Restaurants that I frequent, I'm kind of the foods I eat is mostly the same. So if I eat out, it's mostly the same places, and so I kind of get to know the employees in these places. And a lady came in one day and she was just so nasty towards one of the workers, and that offended me so much because I'm like, why'd you have to talk to her like that? Right. So that I think it needs to be reciprocated. When people are kind to you and show you kindness, I think it should be shown back. And that worker was not being ugly towards the customer. The customer actually belittled her and was not very nice.
Yeah, I've been in situations like that as well. And I'm one of these people that do not believe the customer is always right. No, they are not. They are not always right. No. And I think I've had customers quote that back to me. The customer is always right. And I'm like, no.
That's not true.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I don't know who started that, but I don't think it's right because like you said, the customer come in with a nasty attitude and they're taking it out on the employee. That's not fair. That's not fair to them. No, it's not. You're listening to Chat City with P. Ross. We are discussing customer service right now on Oak 93.5 FM. I have co-host Tameka Douglas here with us today. She is an evangelist and social worker here in Wake County. We're going to be talking about some other things as well. But back on this customer service piece, Tameka, you have traveled. You just mentioned your experience when you went to New York a few weeks ago. There's this stigma about Northerners and Southerners. Southerners seem to give more hospitality than the Northerners. Did you notice any of that? Did you notice anything different between the way you were treated other than that incident when you visited New York and what you're used to here in the South?
I really did not. And I think that's because now, New York has got a lot of transplants now. So a lot of the people that I have encountered move there. So I think that may be it. I mean, you have some that you're going to get that from there. Northerners are a little different than Southerners, but in my experience, in terms of customer service, I haven't experienced a situation where I feel like, oh, they're acting like this because they're Northerner and stuff. So if it's been a good experience, it's just been a good experience. It hasn't just been because of the different in Northerner versus Southern, in my experience.
Okay. And you've also recently traveled outside of the country. Tell us about customer service there and the places you've traveled outside to.
Sure. In Paris, that was the place kind of before New York that I was at. Paris, it was all of the same. I was a little nervous about Paris because I'd always heard different little stories. Some were saying, oh, they don't like Americans and they act different. But there it was pleasant. In the restaurants, they were very nice. And then people were like, make sure if you're going to speak their language, make sure you get it exactly right because that offends them if they don't. So little stuff like that I'd heard prior to going. But my experience overall was good in the restaurants, the little coffee shops and things like that. They were nice. They greeted you. Wasn't a lot of conversation, but they were good, nice in their greetings. And then one of the things that I was a little confused about because I'd heard different things about like the tipping because I'm big on tipping because I believe that especially if they do good service, I believe that the individual should be tipped well. And then some people were like, so the group that I was with, they were like, no, don't leave a tip. The French don't want you to leave tips because that offends them. Ooh. And so I was like, really? So it was little stuff like that. But in some cases I was like, here you go. But if I was with people that were like, no, don't leave a tip because they get paid such a high rate that it offends them. When we here, it's like give the person a tip. There, it's like if you give them a tip, it is said, and I have to do my own research on it. This is kind of what was told to me while there, that it said that if we give tips to them, it's looking like they're not getting paid what they're worth. And so, but in both cases, again, when I was with groups, that was like, we're not going to do the tip because we don't want to offend. The people were still very nice. To answer your question, I did not have a bad experience there as it related to the different cultures with customer service or any of that. They were very pleasant and welcoming.
It's good to know. Now let's talk about tipping. I'm glad you brought that up because here in America, I find here lately, and I think we've mentioned this before in a earlier show. I personally have a problem with our new way of tipping now. Everybody's expecting a tip almost everywhere you go.
Yes.
When you are at the counter anywhere, almost with the card, they want you to tip. I'm like, what did you do to earn the tip? You're nice at the counter. Is that what I'm supposed to tip you for? Like, for instance, I'm going to call this business out, Buffalo Wild Wings, because I've been eating there a lot lately and picking up my order to take out, and, the lady at the counter or at the register, she forewarned me, it's going to ask you if you want to leave a tip before you can go any further, and you don't have to leave a tip if you don't want to. I'm like, the first person told me that. The second time, I've gone several times, but the first time, that I was hit with that in a while since I've been to Buffalo Wild Wings and started ordering out, I was like, wow, okay. And then it's going to ask you if you want to leave a tip, and then it's got the percentages there, this and that and the other, and I'm like, no, I'm not leaving a tip. You didn't do anything. You didn't bring me any water. Well, you did bring this, but then I'm like, your employer should be paying you like they do over there in France. I didn't know that until now. They should be paying you enough to do what you're doing. Don't rely on my dollars to help get you to where you need to go because I want these wings over here, that's just my thought process on it. Yeah. All right.
But it's everywhere now. They want one. You roll up at the coffee shop in the window. They were like, okay, when you use your card, before you put your card in, they're going to ask you questions. And so it's everywhere now.
Yeah. I kind of feel like some of the employees are embarrassed to say, about, it's going to ask you to if you want to leave a tip or not. So. Yeah.
Especially if you go in, like if I'm going to a restaurant now, they have the to-go little drive up, pull in the space, and they bring it out. Wintertime, rain.
Yeah.
You want to give them something,
right?
But if I'm going to run in there and get it,
right? You get nothing extra.
Yeah.
No, in my book. If you would like to join in this conversation we're having about customer service, feel free to call us now at 919-899-9305. You have an opportunity to join in. 919-899-9305. While you're thinking about that, we're going to move on to our next subject, public pets. What do I mean by public pets? Pets in the public. Are you a pet owner, Tameka?
I'm not.
Okay, so I can talk. No, I didn't want to. You know what? I used to have pets. I used to have dogs. I've had a cat or two. But I'm this person that is seeing pets more and more and more in just everywhere you go.
Yes.
And I'm a little disgruntled when I see pets in buggies at Walmart and they're not service pets. How do you even distinguish what a service pet is anymore? Because I don't believe, I think everybody just thinks it's okay.
Yeah.
You do have these businesses now that I've noticed, like at Lowe's, at my neighborhood Lowe's, there's a sign on the door that says pets are welcomed. You know, to each his own on his pet. But what are your thought process, or what do you think about pets in public, Tameka?
Yeah, I think if people have service dogs, you have some people now, I mean, even with certain mental illnesses, they can have a therapeutic dog.
Right.
Of course, you know, those who are visually impaired, those are, who are deaf, they have their service dogs. But just randomly bringing your dog in the restaurant, sitting beside the people eating, you know, in the store the other day, you know, going in Food Line, there was a lady with one, and I know it wasn't a service dog because there's something to identify,
Right.
you know, if it's a service dog. So I do think that we've got to be more mindful about that for safety reasons and for hygienic reasons as
There
well.
you
I
go.
think that we have to be very mindful of that. So
Yes.
I do agree with you in that regard that we certainly need to kind of be more cautious with bringing our animals out, especially if they're not service dogs,
Right.
for healthcare reasons.
Right. And I don't want to, you mentioned mental health. You know, there are people that feel like they need those type of pets. What do they call those? What do they call those? Support
Support dogs?
dogs. Yeah. But on the flip side of that, I think we should, I don't know where they go, I guess to a psychologist or psychiatrist to determine whether or not that type of animal is good or needed for them. But on the psychologist or psychiatrist end, I would think they would do something or give them a remedy of getting involved with people more so than relying on a pet. Something I observed one day eating in a restaurant was a group of people walking by, and there was a German Shepherd. It had the service coat on like a service dog. But you notice I said group of people? That person with the service dog was with a group of people.
Wow.
So why was the service dog needed? I don't understand that. And again, I mean, to each his own and what they do in their own home with their pets. Yes, when we're in the public, we're around 1 million germs every day. But pets, you know, they have worms. They can't wash their hands. They lick their buttocks and whatever they, you know, and they don't clean themselves, you know. I mean, and so again, I like pets, but I believe a pet's proper place is not in the public all the time. And you know what I would like to observe? Somebody going in with a snake, a pet snake, to Walmart. Then what?
Yeah.
Or a monkey, or a bulldog, a pit bull. You know. Then what?
Yeah.
You know, I've been that person to point it out at Walmart. Like, hey, that person got a dog in a buggy over there by the food section. You know, I've been that person. You know, and I've gotten to the point where I'm just tired of it.
Yeah.
I don't want to change who I am right now and join in with everybody else. But you know, so I don't know. I just wanted to get a different opinion on that today.
It's certainly something to think about.
And I'm gonna tell you something else that I got a gripe about. The pet owner that isn't happy, well, they expect everyone to love their pet. No, it's not a person to me. It's an animal. I respect that it's a person to you, but it's not a child to me, you know? And if I don't want your dog running up to me and jumping all over me and don't get upset about that. You know, it's just, I don't feel the same way. that you do about the pet, you know?
So
If you're a pet owner and want to talk about this with us today, call us right now at 919-899-9305. We're on Oak 93.5 WRLY here in Raleigh, North Carolina. This is Chat City with P. Ross. You're listening to P. Ross and Tameka Douglas. All right. Tameka, something else I wanted to touch on today is pastors' wives. Now, you're an evangelist, and as I mentioned before, if you've seen what we've written down on our poster as to what our subject was going to be today on Facebook, we said pastor's wife, and we didn't mean a pastor having more than one wife. That was a grammatical error. But pastor's wives, this is something just in my list of questions that I wanted to bring up today, that I've had for a long time, but wanted to bring up today. When a pastor dies and he's a part of, I guess, an indie church, or he started the church, or he created the church, or whatever, and his wife is there, he passes away, or something happens to where he can no longer pastor the church. Is it the right thing to do? Is it okay for the wife to step up into that role automatically? What do you think? Or what answers do you have for us on that, Tameka? Evangelist.
It varies based on different reformations. Some don't believe in women pastoring at all by any means, and so in more cases than none, they will typically appoint a male to oversee that church, even if the pastor and his wife founded the church. So, I don't think that. I think that we must respect the wife. If something were to happen. So certainly if you appoint a male there and he's married, the former wife, the founder's wife, is no longer, of course, the first lady of the church, but I think that she should be, there are certain things that she should ways that she should be honored, of course, because she is a founding wife or a founding lady of the church. I don't necessarily think she has to be the pastor of the church because her husband died, though.
Yeah. And that case has happened several times in different churches that I know of. I mean, just even personal friends with me, that I know of. The husband dies and the wife takes on the role. Usually, what I've observed is that the wife already have a ministerial position, or she's already some type of evangelist, or she's already in the line of preaching or teaching somewhere, and she fits in nicely. But I was just thinking, like, what if that person doesn't? Then what? Then what? And I believe there's one church in particular, I don't know how their governing body is set up, like that one person in head doesn't make all the decisions. But I believe there's one church, maybe here within this area, maybe many within this area, but one I'm familiar with, that the wife did step up and took on the role of pastor after the husband passed away, and seemed to be doing a wonderful job. I mean, they have been doing it for many years now. I would say at least maybe 10 to 15,
Because you have some of the churches where the wife is the co-pastor of the church, and so certain things are put in place, to make sure that if something were to happen, that's why I believe that we certainly must make plans for things like that and make sure that we have things put in place if that is the desire of the husband. Should something happen to him, for the wife to oversee the church, then that needs to be written somewhere. That needs to be certain things that are put in place so that can happen, because a lot of times it will not happen. And again, you have some reformations that simply will not do that. They're not going to appoint, even if the wife is namely the co-pastor, they're just not going to put her or allow her to pastor the church. So even if if it's something that's kind of written down, they'll still in most cases appoint a man. But there are situations, I know women right now who are pastoring and who, once their husband passed away, they became the pastor, and they are doing an outstanding job in leading the people.
Yeah. Now, okay, so I think there's a scripture, the woman is not to be head over the man, and with a female pastor in place. I wonder how, like you said, a lot of times they may change it to where they're appointing a man to be in that head role. But can women really lead men when it comes to religion or spirituality and, in business or whatever, when it comes to the church? How do the members feel about it? Would they stay or would they leave? Those were kind of the things that I was looking at when it came to that subject there. Yeah, so if you're listening to us now, you're listening to Chat City with P. Ross. Chatting with me today is co-host Tameka Douglas, who is a social worker and evangelist here in Wake County, and I am your host, P. Ross. We were scheduled to have another guest with us here today, but she could not make it. Shout out to Navy Black, who will be here with us at another time. She's been on the show one time before, but we are moving right along. All right, over the hill. Who's over the hill or approaching 40 right now? Some people tend to worry about that. Over the hill. I'm over 40, and I'm glad to be over 40. I believe Tameka's over 40. Yeah. Some people don't like to tell their age. I don't mind telling my age. I'm glad I lived to see 53 and hope to make 54.
I'm glad I lived to see 45 and hope to see many more.
Did you have any anxiety approaching 40, Tameka?
Let's see. I wouldn't say anxiety. I don't think I had anxiety approaching 40. It was just, I'm like, another year, thankful to see it. I know many people, I have many classmates that didn't see their 30s and certainly not their 40s. So I think for me, it was more so being thankful to see it.
Right.
So
that was me. I was ready to get to 40, but you hear people sometime, no, I'm approaching 40. I'm going to be over the hill, And whenever I hear that from people, just talking to me or just passing by or whatever, I say, hey, be grateful to see that age. A lot of people didn't make it. It's not going to be bad at all. I don't believe. You're living and you're breathing. It's an opportunity to fix something that was broken.
That's
right.
Right.
It's an opportunity to do a lot of things. So, over the hill, lifespan is about 80 years of age. So that's what we refer to when we say over the hill. You're at 40, that halfway mark. And, for some like athletes, they may not have that physical power that they used to have. So, and then they're approaching retirement or thinking about retiring, and then just people in general, ailments with just with your body and just different things,
Things change. That's
things
for sure.
change. Yeah. Things change. Yeah. But hey, like 40 can be a happy place. 40 can be a happy place. Some tips in what to do when reaching that 40 mark. Healthy habits to put in place. 1, maintain a positive attitude. Maintain a positive attitude. Like I said, 40 doesn't have to be a bad thing. If you've been having negative attitude, make a decision to change it.
Yes.
What are some things we could do to maintain a positive attitude, Tameka?
Yeah, I think living life is one. Living your best life, whatever that may be, doing things you enjoy doing, taking care of yourself, of course, helping others as much as possible. I think that attributes to feeling good when you have done well or try to do good by other people. But definitely for me, it's certainly living life and living it to the fullest, doing those things that you like to do. I think that's a great way to approach it.
Okay, all right. And then on health-wise, I would say sleep. Yeah. Just try to sleep more as much as you can to rejuvenate your body and all its cells. Exercise, make exercise a part of your life when you're 40 if you haven't already. And eating healthier. Yeah. That's a key to living past 40. Eating healthier, and it's probably the most challenging one. Key or step into living to getting to age 40. Just eating healthier foods, water intake, and here's another one: confront vices. that you have.
That's good.
You know, like, I don't know, maybe some addictions that you may have, smoking, drinking alcohol excessively, you know, those type of things. Things you could look at working on when you're approaching 40. Finances, getting your finances in order and taking care of business if you haven't. You know, that pile of stuff that's on the desk that you haven't worked through yet and it's been sitting there for a few months, maybe find some time to go through it and put things in order. Yeah. You have any others to think of, to mention?
Yeah, you mentioned quite a few. There's a lady I like, and she's way over 40. She's actually 102, and she's a doctor, Dr. Gladys Gary. She does a lot of blogs on YouTube, and she talks about living and living well, or aging and aging well. And she mentioned some of those things, and she talked about simply love, like showing love towards others and just kindness, and how that has gone such a long way in her destiny or her journey through life. And she talked about, in one of her main things is she believes more so in the natural medication. So she says a lot of times, even though we of course don't stop taking your medicine after you're taking pills, but she talked about how a lot of what we're using medications for, the body can naturally heal itself by the exercise, the diet, the drinking water, and just little things that you can do in and of yourself, keeping your body moving. And she said that's one of the things that she knows has worked for her in being 102 years old and still able to walk, still continent of bowel and bladder and ambulatory, all of that is just keeping the body moving. She said whether it is if you're sitting, moving your leg up and down, little stuff like that, getting up, taking a walk, and doing it at your own pace. You don't have to get out there and speed walk or run, but those are some of the tips that she offers in longevity as it relates to life. So she said that the key, though, one of the main keys is just keeping the body moving. And I often say, if you don't use it, you'll lose it. And my population that I work in with social work is adults, and I often tell them that, especially the ones who begin to start sitting in the wheelchair and they just sit there. And I've seen people sit there and never get out of it. And so I always say, listen, you might need this temporarily. You may need it 2 or 3 hours during the day. Get up and walk, because you still can. Because it is a fact that if you don't use it, you will lose it. If you depend on that chair and you get in there and you sit down and you don't get back out of it, you'll be in there. So I think it makes sense what her statements are about moving and keeping it moving.
Have you noticed anything personally of yourself when you turned age 40 that was different from being under age 40?
I did. I could see things slow down a little bit. Look, certain things, just, this thing slowing down, feeling myself slow down. And so those were the things I began to feel, just moving a little bit slower, little ailments here, there, little stuff like that. Usually easily alleviated, but I could certainly tell a difference. When I hit 40, it wasn't like being 30. So, so I had to do a little more. I got to drink a little bit more water, get out and move a little bit more. Right now, I'm not getting out as much as I used to or I like to when it comes to exercising, but certainly do try to be more intentional about that, because those are the things that we have to do as we age. So I did begin to feel a little tired and quicker when I hit 40.
Well, for myself, I'm going to say I noticed I was a little bit more confident in who I am. And I believe I gained a lot more wisdom than what I did. I want to say I had a little wisdom when I was in my 20s and my 30s. But I noticed my wisdom seemed to be a little bit better than it was in those ages. I was a little bit more relaxed. I'm on the go a lot now, but mentally, I'm a little bit more relaxed. I don't let things upset me as easily. Right. And I'm not worried about a lot of things like I was prior to being 40 years of age. I'm like, oh, that's nothing. We can work on that, or it's going to get better the next day, or we can fix that. That's my attitude about things like that. Yeah. And, I don't know nowadays, and even myself with my business, I've had the 40 and up. I'm not going to say club, but I try to create an atmosphere for those that are 40 and up, the 40
Yeah.
plus crowd. You know, I've done that a couple of times with events that I've hosted. You know, like this is for the 40 and up crowd. But you know, you've got mature 20 and 30-year-olds out there. So like for instance, like when I would have an event and it took a mature 20 and 30-year-old to bring that to my attention. They were like, oh, I want to come to this event that you have, but you got on your poster, you got to be 35, you know. And then I had to think about that. I said, wow, you know, these people were in the healthcare field. You know, you got nurses that are mature and can handle the 40 plus crowd. So we're like, okay, yeah, you got to pass. You can come.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I have to just agree to what you said about just that mentality wise. I did certainly see a difference in how I thought about things also when I hit 40 as it relates to how I thought the maturity level changes, which you cared about. Like you said, it's like, okay, life is short. What mattered then, it doesn't matter now. You know, I began to think more quality versus quantity in relationships, as far as friendships and things of that nature. At 40, began to realize that the core is what matters. You don't have to have 50 people around you, because I ain't gonna remember to do 50 birthday shout outs on Facebook. I'm not gonna remember to, I gotta respond and text all y'all back. It's not gonna happen. So so that changed, I would say at 40, where I began to look at things a lot different than I did in my 20s and 30s.
That's good. All right. So, this is all of our subject today that we've touched on. We've touched on customer service. We talked on being 40 over the hill, approaching 40. Don't be afraid. We've talked about pets in public. And we've talked about pastors' wives, you know, and how they do when, what happens if their husband passes away or they have to step up to the plate and take over the church and maintain. Yeah. So, customer service again, though, I just want to say, you know, those of you that are listening, if you have to deal with the public, just first thing, smile, bring a positive attitude to work. If you have to fix yourself and get it together, take some time to do that before you come into work and you approach the public. You know, you never know who you're going to run into, but you can make a difference in somebody's life. You know, somebody could be having a bad day and you can change all of that with just a beautiful smile and a great greeting, you know? Absolutely. Yeah. You want anything else you think you want to touch on with customer service, Tameka, or that's it for you?
Yeah, I think you summed it up. I think you summed it up. It makes a difference, and you have to know that how you present that, you know, as an individual, you are certainly the kind of the commercial or the advertisement for that business, and so the customer service representative plays an important part for that business. That's why I think companies must put more emphasis on training as it relates to customer service skills training. We used to see that a lot more, but you don't see it as much now. Customer skills training. And
customer skills training. That's right. I agree. Training. Yeah. Okay. This concludes our show today, Chat City with P. Ross. Thank you, co-host Tameka, for being on with me today. Navy Black, we're going to see you next time. We hope you're watching. And thank you for tuning in again if you have tuned in with us. If this is your first time, check us out every third Thursday here on Oak 93.5 FM. We pray that you have a wonderful weekend and enjoy the rest of the week.